Welcome to Outlaws and Gunslingers. From the Wild West to the rise of organized crime during the Prohibition, all the way up to today, America has had criminals, gangs, and law enforcement trying to bring them down. Join us as we profile some of the most infamous criminals, gangsters, outlaws, and lawmen in American history. True crime like you've never heard it before. Ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Bang and Dang.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers, which I was Bang and Dang. It's the first Tuesday of the month, and you know what that means. We're already in August of 2024.
Ridiculous.
Fucking crazy. First of the month, that means it's Mafia of the Month. Still going wrong and strong with the Gambino family. We actually recorded an episode on Frank DeChico and Joseph Armone, but it was like 20 minutes and the same shit that you've heard in all the Gotti episodes. This one is a nice longer story all about Roy DeMeo, who died in 83. Not sure how he died, because we'll get there, obviously. He was headed a group referred to as the DeMeo crew, which became notorious for the large number of murders they committed and for the grisly way they disposed of the bodies, which became known as the Gemini method.
Oh.
The crew is believed to be responsible for up to 200 murders, many of which were committed by old Roy Boy himself. Yeah, this guy...
Yeah, he was a mad.
Isn't the
mad
family
man.
in Sopranos called the DeMeo family?
No, it was the.
Pretty sure it was the DeMeo family.
Maybe.
The one that Tony runs.
Maybe.
Yeah. But before we get to that, you already know the drill. Go check us out on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. Give us a review. Share us with your friends. Answer that Spotify question. All that good stuff.
That wouldn't be DeMeo because he didn't run Jersey.
Well, obviously, it's not going to be Jersey. DeMeo.
Basically.
Yeah.
New Jersey based.
Right.
Okay.
And then it becomes the Soprano family, right? I would assume.
So. Right.
Technically, it would have been.
Right.
Yeah, Roy Albert DeMeo, born September 7th, 1940 in Flatlands, Brooklyn, to a working-class Italian immigrant family of Neapolitan origin.
Oh.
And they Strawberry, Ella. Fourth of five children he was, of Eleanor, who was a housewife, and Antonio Joseph Anthony DeMeo, who was a laundry company delivery man.
I'm sure he was.
DeMeo graduated from James Madison High School in 1959. During, he started earning money as a loan shark. He got right into it.
Fantastic. The economist Walter Block and future presidential candidate Bernie Sanders were among his graduating year classmates.
Oh, good for him.
Between the ages of 15 and 22, DeMeo also worked at a local grocery store. He trained as an apprentice butcher as well. That's what he did there at that grocery store. I didn't know that butchers had apprentices.
Why not? It's very, especially back in those days, man. Butcher was like
That's true.
top guy.
That's true. Roy's older brother, Anthony Frank Chubby DeMeo, a United States Marine Corps corporal, was murdered in action during the Korean War on the 23rd of April, 1951, age 20.
Wow.
His daddy died of a heart attack on December 12th, 1960. Oh, that's a terrible Christmas that year. Roy was 19. His mother subsequently returned to Italy with Roy's youngest brother to live with relatives near Naples.
Damn, she said I had it with America.
She probably didn't want to be here in the first place.
All right. Well, Roy was initially an associate of the Flatlands Carnassi faction of the Lucchese crime family, which controlled tow truck companies, junkyards, and car theft operations in that section of Brooklyn. Anthony Gaggi, a soldier in the Gambino crime family, noticed DeMeo in 1966, told him that he could make even more money with a successful business if he came to work directly for the Gambinos.
I wonder how the Lucchese thought about that.
Well, who's more powerful right now? Probably Gambinos.
Gambinos, yeah.
Through the late 60s, DeMeo's organized crime prospects increased on two fronts.
Fantastic. He continued with the loan sharking business with Gaggi, and he began developing a crew of young men involved in car theft. It was this collective of criminals that became known both in the underworld and in law enforcement circles as the DeMeo crew.
All right, the DeMeo crew.
The DeMeo crew. The first member of the DeMeo crew was 16-year-old Chris Rosenberg.
Oh, Jew?
Right, who met DeMeo in 1966 when he was dealing marijuana at a Carnegie gas station. DeMeo, he helped Rosenberg increase his business and profits by loaning him money so he could deal in larger amounts.
Good for you, buddy.
He was like, dude, you ain't going to make no money like this. Do you really want to make some money?
You got to move some weight, buddy.
Right. He's like, how do I do that? He's like, don't worry about it.
I got you. Well, by 1972, Rosenberg had introduced his friends to DeMeo, and they began working for him as well. The additional members of the crew came to include Joseph and Patrick Testa, who we'll get to those guys. Anthony Center, him too.
Right.
Richard and Frederick Denome, Henry Borelli, Joseph Dracula Guglielmo, who was DeMeo's cousin, and later Vito Arena, plus Carlo Profeta.
Okay.
DeMeo joined the Brooklyn Credit Union that same year. All right, gaining a position on the board of directors shortly afterwards. What?
I mean, if you credit union, you're basically a part owner.
Yes, he utilized his position to launder money earned through his illegal ventures. He also introduced colleagues at the credit union to lucrative side business, laundering the money of drug dealers he had become acquainted with.
Oh,
Shit. DeMeo also built up his loan sharking business with funds stolen from credit union reserves.
I mean, why not?
Shit.
Why not?
This guy, huh?
Well, his collection of loan shark customers, while still primarily those in the car industry, they soon included other businesses such as dentist offices, abortion clinics, restaurants, and flea markets. He was also listed as an employee for a Brooklyn company named SNC Sportswear Corporation. And he frequently told his neighbors he worked in construction, food retailing, and the used car business.
The man of all.
You know, master of none.
Right.
Bonanno underboss Salvatore Vitali claimed to the FBI that in 1974 he was ordered to deliver the corpse of a man who had been just moited to a garage in Queens so that it could be disposed of by DeMeo. Who the fuck are you, Salvatore Vitale?
Well, we covered him, I'm pretty sure. Late 74, a conflict that had erupted between the DeMeo crew and Andre Katz, who was a young auto repair shop owner who was partners with DeMeo. They had continued to escalate. January 75, Katz visited the Brooklyn District Attorney's office and voluntarily provided them information that Chris Rosenberg was heavily involved in auto theft. Come on, guy. DeMeo learned about the meeting immediately after it happened from an auto crimes detective on his payroll. Jeez.
Wow.
What are you doing, dude? You like you didn't know who you're in with?
Wow.
Dead.
Well, Roy, he then ordered a DeMeo crew associate, Henry Borelli, to contact a female acquaintance, which her name was Babette Judith Quistel. He's like, how about we use her as bait? In May, Katz appeared before a Brooklyn grand jury and divulged that he knew about the DeMeo's crew's illegal activities. 13th of June, 1975. Well, that bait of a Babette.
the beta.
The Babette Judith Quistel, she was successfully used to lure Katz to her apartment for what he thought was a date. Whereupon he arrived, he was immediately abducted by members of the DeMeo crew.
He was then taken to the meat department of a supermarket in Rockaway Beach, Queens.
Oh shit!
Where he was stabbed multiple times in the heart and then back by in the back by a butcher knife.
Really?
After being decapitated, Katz's head was then crushed when it was put through a machine normally used for compacting cardboard boxes.
Oh, that's right.
Jeez. The body parts were wrapped in plastic bags and then deposited into the supermarket's dumpster, where they were discovered days later when a pedestrian walking by with his dog spotted one of Katz's legs lying on a curb near the store. Damn, so an animal went in that dumpster and dragged it out.
He's like, what the hell is that? Damn. The Popo reported to the press that a grisly, brutal killing had occurred. But that was the extent of the information given. Body identified as of Andre Katz 2 days later through the use of dental records. As the 1970s continued, DeMeo cultivated his followers into a crew experienced with the process of murdering and dismembering victims.
Jeez.
With the exception of killings intended to send a message to any who would hinder their criminal activities.
Since he trained as a butcher, I'm surprised his nickname isn't the Butcher.
Right. The only way he didn't dismember his victims is if he needed to send a message to anyone who would hinder their criminal activities or murders that presented no other alternative. A set method of execution was established by DeMeo and crew to ensure that victims would be dispatched quickly and then made to disappear.
Yep.
You think they put it in a hamburger?
No.
Put it out there for $3.99 a pound?
That's gross. This style of execution was dubbed the Gemini method after the Gemini Lounge, which was the primary hangout of the DeMeo crew, as well as the site where most of the crew's victims were killed. The process of the Gemini method, as revealed by multiple crew members and associates who became witnesses or informants early in the 80s, was to lure the victim through the side door of the lounge and into the apartment in the back portion of the building. Once you're done, once you do that, you're dead.
Finiciotto. At this very point, a crew member, almost always DeMeo, according to crew member turned government witness Frederick Denome, he would approach with a silenced pistol in one hand and a towel in the other, shooting the victim in the head and then wrapping the towel around the victim's head. like a turban to stanch the blood flow.
Jeez.
Immediately after, another member of the crew, originally Chris Rosenberg, up until his murder in 1979, according to government witness testimony, would stab the victim in the heart to prevent more blood from pumping out of the gunshot wound.
Jeez, they had this down to a fucking science.
Damn.
By then, the victim would be dead, which I hope so, at which point the body would be stripped of clothing and dragged into the bathroom, where the remaining blood drained out or congealed within the body.
Wow.
This was to eliminate the messiness of the next step,
Right.
when crew members would place the body into plastic sheets laid out in the main room and proceeded to dismember it, cutting off the arms, legs, and head.
Oh, shit. Damn. The body parts would then be put into bags, placed in cardboard boxes, and sent to the Fountain Avenue dump in Brooklyn. So many tons of garbage were dropped each day at the dump that it would be nearly impossible for the bodies to be discovered. During the initial stages of an early 1980s federal and a state task force targeting the DeMeo crew, a plan by the authorities to excavate the sections of the dump to locate remains of the victims was aborted when it was deemed too costly and unlikely to even locate any meaningful evidence.
Yeah, good luck.
Right.
The landfill opposite the Starrett City apartment complex.
That's fucked up.
Right. On Pennsylvania Avenue in the heavily African-American East New York section of Brooklyn, across the Belt Parkway. That was closed in 85 and capped off ever since. Nothing's going to ever be found there, boys.
Oh.
All signs and odors that a landfill had existed are gone, replaced by a parkland. Yeah, now there's a park with kids playing
Right.
on top of dead bodies.
Oh, shit.
Some victims were killed in other ways for varying reasons, though. At times, suspected informants or those who committed an act of disrespect against a member of the crew or their superiors had their bodies left in the streets of
Yep.
New York to serve as a message and a warning.
Right.
This is what happens when you fucking cross us.
You ain't kidding. There are also occasions where it would not be possible to lure the intended victim into the Gemini Lounge, in which case other locations would have to be used. There was a cabin cruiser owned by Richard DeMeo. That was
a cabin cruiser?
It's a little camper. Oh no, it's a boat.
With a cabin. That's the one that Big Pussy got killed in.
Right. Well, look at that shit. There was a cabin cruiser, which is a little boat owned by Richard DeMeo that was used on at least one occasion to dispose of remains. Later half of 1975, DeMeo, he became a silent partner in a peep show prostitution establishment in Bricktown, New Jersey. After the owner of the business became unable to pay his loan sharking debts, DeMeo also began dealing in bestiality and child pornography. Oh, no.
What are you doing?
Which he sold to his New Jersey establishment as well as connections he had in Rhode Island. Oh, wow.
Well, when Gaggy found out about DeMeo's involvement in such taboo films, he ordered DeMeo to stop under the threat of death. Ooh. Stop under the threat of death before I cut your head off. However, DeMeo defied Gaggy and continued the practice. Gaggy did not retaliate, though, and according to his nephew Dominic Montiglio, the subject was never mentioned again as long as DeMeo continued making payments to Gaggy. All he cares about the money. Yeah. DeMeo also dealt in narcotics, despite the Gambino family strictly forbidden. We already know that's fucking false.
Everybody was doing it.
He also financed a major operation importing Colombian marijuana. Well, he couldn't get the good stuff,
right?
Which was unloaded from an offshore freighter and sold at various auto shops in Canarsie, and also sold cocaine out of the Gemini Lounge. All right, okay,
fantastic.
I don't know if you want to do it off of your place that you hang out all the time, but okay.
Right. As 1975 drew to a close, DeMeo was subject to an IRS investigation. They want to know, where is his income coming from?
Right. It's like under the books of like 3 companies.
Months earlier, the Borough of Brooklyn Credit Union had been pushed into insolvency as a result of DeMeo and his colleagues plundering of its finances. Asshole. As a result, DeMeo quit the credit union.
I bet. Well, of course.
It's like, what am I going to do here? Before an indictment could be handed down against him, he utilized false affidavits from business owned by friends and acquaintances claiming he was on their payrolls as an employee. These affidavits served to account for some of his income, allowing him to reach a settlement with the IRS.
All right, look at these guys. All right. DeMeo's sources of income, as well as his crew, continued to grow. By July 76, DeMeo added an automobile firm by the name of Team Auto Wholesalers to his loan shark customers. The owner of Team Auto, Matthew Rega, also purchased stolen vehicles from the crew and sold them off at a New Jersey car lot that he owned.
Obviously.
He also involved himself with hijacking delivery trucks from JFK International Airport. His crew now included Edward Danny Grillo, who was a hijacker who had just been released from prison. You probably don't want a guy that's just released from prison, right. Probably for hijacking. And
most likely.
Stupid.
Wow. Fall 1976. Gambino family went through a massive change when its boss, Carlo Gambino, died of natural causes.
We can never get away from this fucking story, no matter what.
Paul Castellano, named boss, with Agnello Della Croce retaining the position of underboss. The implications of this were twofold for DeMeo. Gaggy, he was elevated to the position of capo, taking over the crew of the men Castellano previously headed. This promotion was beneficial for DeMeo, whose mentor was now even closer to the family leadership.
Right.
Another advantage was that the Gambino deceased new associates would be eligible for memberships into the family.
Yeah, because Gambino wouldn't allow nobody.
Yep.
Castellano did not immediately open the books for new members, opted instead to promote existing members, obviously, and shuffle around the crew's leaders. Yeah, because there's probably guys by now that's been in the ship for 25 years and they wasn't able to get made.
Waiting.
He also allegedly opposed the idea of DeMeo being made, though.
Oh.
Castellano involved himself in white-collar crime, which we know, and looked down on street-level members such as DeMeo.
He did.
Additionally, Castellano felt Roy was uncontrollable. Can't have... this is a guy that you got... Anthony, or, what's his name?
Right.
Bilotti, that's uncontrollable, running around with you guy.
Oh, he likes him.
Gaggy's attempts at persuading Castellano to make DeMeo were continually rejected.
Oh, wow.
By 1977, Roy became distraught by this situation, searched for opportunities that would ensure larger returns for his superiors. He's like, just got to give him more money. They can't deny me now.
Right. He secured his induction to the Gambino family by forming an alliance with an Irish-American gang known as the Westies.
Oh, the fucking Westies.
Oh, wow. The leader of the rival Irish gang, Mickey Spillane, was causing delays for the construction of the Jacob K. Javits Convention Center, much to the frustration of Gambino boss Paul Castellano, who had a part in the project, obviously. After the unsolved murder of Spillane in May 1977, Westies leader James Coonan, he assumed control of the Irish mob rackets on the west side of Manhattan.
Look at that. Well, Roy, sensing an opportunity to create a vast source of income for the Gambinos, persuaded Gaggy to consider a partnership with the Westies. Shortly afterwards, Coonan and his second-in-command, Mickey Featherstone, were common Mickey's thing. It's like the Irish got like 100 members named Mickey.
Right.
And Italians have like 100 members named Tony. Well, they were called to a meeting with Castellano in which they agreed to become a de facto arm of the Gambino family and share 10% of all profits.
Nice.
That's it. And wait, they're sharing 10% or they only get 10%?
They share 10% of all profits, whatever that means.
So they give 10% to the Gambinos, probably.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
In exchange, the Westies would be privy to several lucrative union deals and take on murder contracts for the family.
And also have friends.
So, hey, we get your money and you have to murder people for us.
Right. Right. And then you can say, I'm connected.
Right.
I know
Well,
people.
nobody knows, don't fuck with the Westies.
Right. It was his pivotal role in the Westie Gambino alliance that reportedly convinced Castellano to give DeMeo his button, or formally induct him into the family. Yes.
He's a button man.
DeMeo, he was made in mid-1977 and put in charge of handling all family business with the Westies.
All right, look at you.
He was ordered to get permission before committing any moitas and to avoid drug dealing. DeMeo's crew, however, continued to sell large amounts of cocaine, marijuana, and a variety of narcotic pills and killing.
Why? Right. Without asking.
Right.
DeMeo also continued to commit unsanctioned killings, yes, such as the 1977 double homicide of Jonathan Quinn, who was a car thief suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. Plus, they killed Cherie Golden, which is Quinn's 19-year-old girlfriend.
Damn.
DeMeo's crew dumped the bodies in locations where they would be discovered to serve as a warning against cooperation with authorities.
Uh-oh.
1978, Frederick Denome, previously DeMeo's chauffeur, joined the crew officially. And he's the one that's going to be like turning on foreman and shit. Dude.
Wow, DeMeo and his crew murdered Edward Grillo.
He was in his crew.
Well, he'd fallen into heavy debt with DeMeo and was believed to be becoming successful to the police. Grillo, who was dismembered and disposed of like many of the crew's murder victims, was the first known occurrence of internal crew discipline.
Oh, there'll be more, don't worry.
Next member to be killed, Rosenberg.
That's the guy he came up with.
All right. Well, he'd set up a drug deal with a Cuban man living in Florida and then murdered him and his associates when they traveled to New York to complete the sale.
Cuban had connections with a Cuban drug cartel, raising the possibility of violence between the Gambinos and the Cubans unless Rosenberg was dealt with.
Yeah, you got to do something.
DeMeo was in turn ordered to kill Rosenberg, but stalled for weeks. He didn't want to, see?
Right.
During this period, DeMeo committed his most public murder. The victim was a college student with no criminal ties named Dominic Ragucci. He was paying for his tuition as a door-to-door salesman.
Oh, jeez.
Roy saw Ragucci parked outside his Massapequa. He parked out of his house and assumed he was a Cuban assassin. Oh, I mean, the guy's on edge. What's he going to do?
Son of a bitch.
Should have killed fucking Rosenberg then.
Yeah, wow. DeMeo and crew members Joseph Guglielmo and Freddie DeNome pursued Ragucci in a 7-mile car chase on Route 110 through Amityville and Farmingdale, after which the student was shot to death by DeMeo.
Oh, shit.
This guy's like, what is going on? He's like, holy shit. After returning home and gathering his family, DeMeo drove them out of Long Island and left them at a hotel in upstate New York for 2 weeks. According to DeMeo's son, Albert, he started crying when he discovered he had murdered an innocent teenager and did not eat for several days afterwards. At least he had somewhat of a conscience.
I guess. Well, the public execution of Ragucci also put a strain on DeMeo's relationship with his wife, Gladys, who had previously been able to ignore her husband's criminal actions. Not anymore. Right. Not anymore, Roy.
Right.
Gaggy was infuriated by the murder of Ragucci and ordered DeMeo to kill Rosenberg before there were any other innocent victims.
Right. He's like, what are you doing, dude?
I'll fucking kill you, too.
You're lucky that you're made.
Jeez. May 11th, 1979, Rosenberg reported to the Gemini Clubhouse for the crew's usual Friday night meeting. He had to have known he had a fucking price on his head after this. Why is he still coming?
DeMeo Friday was like, dude, I'm not going to allow that.
Jeez. Shortly after his arrival, DeMeo quickly fired a single bullet into the unsuspecting Rosenberg's head. He said, I got to get it over with.
Right. Just quick. And he probably just turned around and said, take care of him, boys. The usually ice-cold DeMeo hesitated when the still-living Rosenberg managed to rise off the floor to one knee. But Anthony Centaur then moved in and finished him off with 4 shots to the head. Damn. Unlike Grillo, Rosenberg's body was not dismembered or made to disappear. The Cubans had demanded that his murder make newspapers. DeMeo's men placed Rosenberg's body in his car and left it on the side of Cross Bay Boulevard near the Gateway National Wildlife Refuge in Broad Channel, Queens. They're like, find me.
Right. After Albert DeMeo later recounted that Rosenberg's murder affected his father deeply. That when DeMeo came home after the killing, he went into his study room and didn't come out for 2 days.
I bet.
After Rosenberg's murder, DeMeo spent 6 weeks hiding out with Guglielmo in a safe house near 42nd Street in Times Square.
Why?
He grew a full beard, disguising himself with a baseball cap and sunglasses when out in public, because he probably thinks that the Cubans still want him, or they're all pissed at him for killing the kid and took so long to kill, what's his name?
Right. Well, as the year 1979 continued to roll on, DeMeo began to expand his business activities, in particular his auto theft operation, which soon became the largest in New York City's history.
Good for you, buddy.
This is dubbed the Empire Boulevard Operation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The operation consisted of hundreds of stolen cars being shipped from the port of New York. That's in New Jersey, to Kuwait, and then also Puerto Rico. Oh, shit. Cuba's like, hey, we're still driving these 1957 Chevys. Right. DeMeo put together a group of 5 active partners in the operation, all of whom earned approximately $30,000 a week. Holy shit.
Damn. Aside from the active partners, other associates and crew members performed the actual stealing of the automobiles off the streets. Well, obviously. Among these associates was Vito Arena, a longtime car thief and armed robber who began working for DeMeo in 1978 after murdering his old partner. Like DeNome, Arena began closely involved with the DeMeo crew by the end of the 1970s. In 1979, the scheme was nearly stopped by a legitimate car dealer who threatened to inform the police. He was murdered, along with an uninvolved acquaintance, before he could provide law enforcement authorities with info. Don't get involved, guys. Is your little business really getting hurt that much? Probably might have been.
I don't understand why everybody, I guess the power and money and all that, but you could never really trust anybody or really even relax. Because at any minute, Patooey.
Yep.
Wow. Hey, man, you want to be my partner? Yeah, sure. What happened to your last guy? I killed him. I won't do that to you, though. All right, let's go. Here, sit behind me with a loaded gun while I drive. Jeez. Late 1979, as this year keeps on a rolling, DeMeo and Nino Gaggi became involved in the conflict with James Eppolito and James Eppolito Jr. They were 2 made men of the Gambino Gaggi's crew.
Wow.
Uh-oh. They were paternal uncles and cousins, respectively, of a corrupt former New York City Police Department detective, Louis Eppolito.
Louis.
Whose daddy, Ralph Eppolito, brother of James Sr., was also a made member of the Gambino family. Oh,
dang, Louis. Yeah, he got, that's like
right.
The Departed situation. He put the guy in the office to be an officer.
Yeah, dude, DeMeo don't want to fuck around with that. Especially Gaggy's already kind of iffy on him, but he loves him. He's like, what do I do? Don't mess with my Epaulitos. I got like a whole group of these motherfuckers.
Epaulitos.
Don't worry, there's 7 more where that came from. Take them all. James Eppolito met with Paul Castellano and accused DeMeo and Gaggy of drug dealing, which carried the penalty of death. Castellano, to whom Gaggy was a close ally, sided against Eppolito in the situation and gave Gaggy permission to do what he pleased.
Fucking gonna kill him.
He's like, all of them?
Well, then he and DeMeo shot the 2 to death in Eppolito Jr.'s car en route to the Gemini Lounge October 1st, 1979. A witness driving by right as the shots were fired within the parked car managed to alert a nearby police officer who arrested Gaggy after a shootout between the two that left Gaggy with a bullet wound in his neck.
Oh, shit.
Since DeMeo had split up with Gaggy as they left the scene, he was not arrested or identified by the witness.
Obviously.
Wow.
And look at Gaggy. He's probably like, motherfucker.
He's like, dude, why am I even involved in this? I'm like the leader of the crew, dude. I'm like the leader of the band, man.
Right. I end up getting shot, and now I'm arrested. Son of a bitch. You know, Castellano told me about this guy.
All right.
Jeez, usually how it goes. Well, Gaggy charged with murder and attempted murder of a police officer, but through jury tampering, he was only convicted of assault and given 5 to 15-year sentence in federal prison. DeMeo murdered the witness shortly after Gaggy's sentencing in March of 1980. Damn.
Well, he could have done it before. Maybe he wouldn't have testified.
Well, he probably wanted him out of the way. He figured that's his little step up higher.
Right.
The Empire Boulevard operation continued to expand through 1979 and 1980 until the warehouse it got raided by agents from New York branch of the FBI. That happened summer of 1980. The FBI had been surveilling the warehouse and some of the men unloading vehicles there, and shortly thereafter obtained a search warrants. Maybe they're just driving by and I was like, oh shit, look at that.
I don't think that was the case.
Probably not.
Henry Borelli and Frederick Denome were arrested in May of 81 for their roles in the operation, but there was not enough evidence to arrest any of the other active partners. DeMeo ordered Borelli and Denome to plead guilty to the charges in hopes that it would stop any further investigations into his activities by the FBI or the other law enforcement agencies. Like, man, you guys take one for the team. We'll take care of you. You come out. We'll fucking continue.
Right, take care of your families. And by 1982, the FBI was investigating the enormous number of missing and murdered persons who were linked to the DeMeo or who had last seen entering the Gemini Lounge. Around this time, an FBI bug in the home of Gambino family capo Angelo Ruggiero picked up a conversation between Ruggiero and Gene Gotti, which was the brother of John Gotti. In this very conversation, it discussed that Paul Castellano had put out a hit on DeMeo, but was having difficulty finding someone willing to do the job because this guy's a mean motherfucker. But he did find somebody to do the job.
Gene Gotti mentions that his brother John was wary of taking the contract, as DeMeo had an army of killers around him.
Right.
It is also mentioned in this same secretly recorded conversation that, at the time, John had killed fewer than 10 people, while DeMeo had killed at least 37 that they had known about. Damn, so John Gotti over there whacking people, huh?
Right.
According to mob turncoat Sammy the Bull, eventually the contract was given to Frank Chico, but Chico and his crew could not get to DeMeo either. Chico allegedly handed the job to DeMeo's own men.
Oh, damn. Well, DeMeo's son Albert, he wrote in his final days, DeMeo was paranoid and knew that he would be killed soon. In his final days, DeMeo was seen wearing a leather jacket with a shotgun concealed underneath. He considered faking his own death by having his son shoot him and laying low. 10th of January, 1983, DeMeo went to crew member Patty Testa's house for a meeting with his men. That night, he failed to attend his daughter Dion's birthday party, which caused his family to be suspicious. Albert DeMeo later found Roy's personal belongings, such as his watch, wallet, and ring, in his study room.
Oh, he knew he was going to get killed.
Right, and a Catholic pamphlet. He's like, yep,
Jeez.
It's over.
10 days later, January 20th, DeMeo's Cadillac Coupe de Ville was discovered in the parking lot of the Varuna Boat Club in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. The car was towed to a nearby police station where it was searched by Organized Crime Control Bureau detectives. DeMeo's partially frozen body was found in the trunk with a chandelier on top of it. He had been shot multiple times in the head and had a bullet wound in his hand, assumed by law enforcement because he was,
Right.
no, don't kill me. Oh, dude. Why are they... What did he do?
All right. The task force investigating the DeMeo crew theorized that DeMeo was set up in a similar manner to how he set up Rosenberg, and that Gaggy, Testa, and Center were present when he was murdered. April 1984. Colombo crime family soldier Ralph Scopo, he was overheard explaining to an associate that DeMeo had been killed by his own family because they merely suspected that he would not be able to stand up to legal charges that resulted from his stolen car ring. I think he would have been fine.
Okay.
Wow. See, they love to just speculate, and then you lose your life because they speculate.
Right.
Just give a guy a chance. According to Scopo, Castellano also had to put DeMeo away because he was crazy and had cast iron balls. Oh, so you're not allowed to be a badass and make shitloads of money for the family.
Right.
You piece of shit, Castellano. Good thing what happened to you, motherfucker. Albert DeMeo believed that his father was murdered by members of his own crew as well.
All right. Well, Anthony Gaspipe Casso claimed that Castellano ordered John Gotti and Frank DeChico to kill DeMeo, but they were unable to get close to him. DeChico suggested that Casso could do it, as he knew Anthony Center and Joseph Testa well. Casso ordered them to kill DeMeo, assuring them that there would be no retribution and that afterwards they would be with him and the Lucchese family.
Oh.
DeMeo visited the home of Patty Testa to collect some money he was owed. Joey Testa and Center were both there. As DeMeo sat down and waited for a coffee, they shot him dead.
You know what? Damn. He shouldn't be going to collect any money anyway.
Right. Where's your people at?
Right. Man. Ironically, according to Castellano ordering DeMeo's execution sealed his own fate, as John Gotti and DeChico were planning to kill him as well. And they would do so on the 16th of December, 1985.
Sure would.
Casso said that they would never have dared to move against Castellano while DeMeo was still alive.
Look, DeMeo would have been the one getting retribution for Castellano, but Castellano's a bitch.
Right, that's bullshit. 1984, 78-count indictment filed against 24 defendants, including surviving members of the DeMeo crew, Capo Nino Gaggi, and the Gambino family head boss, Paul Castellano. The charges related to auto theft, racketeering, and drug trafficking. And drug trafficking.
Paul Castellano was indicted for the ordering the murder of DeMeo, as well as a host of other crimes, but was killed in December of 85. Yes, we know. The murder was ordered, yes. After the death of Castellano, Nino Gaggi became the lead defendant, but he too soon died of natural causes. March 86, 6 were found guilty, with Henry Borelli and one other person being found guilty of 2 counts of murder.
Damn, it's all falling apart for these guys. Dude, this has to be worse than the Banana family.
So far, this is the worst in the Gambinos for sure. I don't know.
The Bananas were pretty bad.
But Genovese's were pretty bad as well.
Right. These guys were later found guilty of murdering 2 people who threatened to expose the car theft ring. 1989 in June, 9 additional members, including Anthony Center, Joseph Testa, found guilty. At sentencing, Center and Testa were given life sentences for murder with an additional 20 years of racketeering. Damn. Prosecutor William Mack Jr. said, "The Roy DeMeo crew is the most violent crew ever prosecuted in federal court, as far as my knowledge."
All right.
And he also said that DeMeo engaged in wholesale slaughter, which he
Sure did. The convictions were secured in large part by testimony of former members Frederick Denome and Dominic Montiglio, as well as Vito Arena. Montiglio turned when he learned there was a contract on his life and was placed in the WITSEC for 20 years for his testimony. Only for 20 years? What happens after that? Richard Denome was killed in 1984. Frederick Denome later died in what was ruled as a suicide.
Yeah.
Vito Arena left New York in 89 after serving 6 years of an 18-year sentence after his testimony. He was then killed in a 1991 robbery in Texas.
What? Ain't that some shit?
All right. The Gemini Lounge later became a storefront church.
Ain't that some shit? You flee so you don't get shot to death.
And then get shot to death.
Wow. DeMeo, subject of 1992 book Murder Machine by Jerry Capecci and Gene Mustaine. Roy DeMeo's son Albert also wrote a book about his life growing up. He called it For the Sins of My Father. He published that in 2002. DeMeo, he's portrayed by Michael A. Miranda in 2001 film Boss of Bosses. Ray Liotta plays DeMeo in 2012 film adaptation of Anthony Bruno's book about Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman. All right, that's off with this guy? No shit. The true story of a cold-blooded killer. Really? DeMeo's the Iceman?
No. Richard Kuklinski is.
Right.
Right.
Right. Duh. Danny A. Abacaser, he plays DeMeo in 2023 film Inside Man.
All right.
Let's check these movies out.
Albert DeMeo said in 2002 of his book, I grew up in a very normal household. Now I read this about my dad, and it really upsets me.
Who's the other one that wrote about his dad? Was it the Gambino guy, or was it? Oh, it was Gotti. Yeah,
Right. He did the movie and everything. This was cathartic. I went into this book with noble intentions, but I realize now that I can't fix my father's image. He did kill. I know those things. I can't fool myself, but I can show that there was another side to him, a father who took care of his family. Albert DeMeo became a stockbroker, but had a nervous breakdown after the release of Murder Machine in 92. He was later diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. One of Roy's daughters became a clothing designer, and another one a medical doctor. So look at that. 3 successful children for you, Roy. Below, just highlight some of the murders that he did that were pretty crazy. He, May 20th, 1976, killed Joseph Bracchini. He was a 43-year-old Lucchese family soldier. He was shot 5 times in the head inside of his office by DeMeo and Henry Borelli in Woodside, Queens, as a result of previously arguing with and punching DeMeo. Ooh. So just because he did that, he had to die.
Well, Vincent Governara, June 12th through the 19th, 1976. What?
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere between June 12th and the 19th of June and 1976. 34-year-old Governara was shot multiple times by DeMeo and Gaggi as revenge for breaking Gaggi's nose in a fistfight about 1964. 12 years before. That's so stupid.
Well, he was shot on the 12th and died on the 19th.
Right. So, because the dude punched him 12 years earlier.
12 years earlier, and they finally get him.
Well, Gubernera had made disrespectful, sexually harassing comments to Gaggi's sister-in-law as well, precipitating the fight between Gaggi and Vincent.
Jeez. July 20th, 1977, we know about John Quinn and Cherie Golden.
Yep. Heard about them.
But the thing is, they killed John Quinn once with a .32 caliber handgun in the back of his head, but shot his girlfriend 3 times with a .38 caliber after Quinn testified before a grand jury. So why they shoot her 3 times? Unless they shot her first and then made him watch it and then killed him? Probably.
Most likely. Wow. You got Michael DeCarlo, May 16th, 1978. He's a Lucchese associate. His death was ordered by a Lucchese capo for raping a young boy. Oh, what the fuck's up with these guys? Bestiality, child porn, raping boys. He was shot, stabbed, beaten, sodomized by DeMeo. Oh, no.
Well, they didn't fuck him. They probably shoved a fucking broom handle up his ass.
I hope so. By DeMeo. I mean, I hope they didn't even... Yeah, I don't know. Right. DeMeo, Joseph Guglielmo, Danny Grillo, Henry Borelli, Anthony Center, Joseph Tessa. They all did this to this guy. His body... dismembered. And
we got Joseph Scorney, September 28, 1978. He was shot and bludgeoned with a sledgehammer by Vito Arena and Richard Denome after refusal to join DeMeo's auto theft operation.
Oh, jeez.
His body was put into a concrete-filled barrel and dumped off a pier. Arena was sentenced to 18 years in prison in 85 for that murder.
Son of a bitch. Assholes. Charles Pagnick, William Serrano, and 2 unnamed people, and others. That happened on the 17th of March, 1979. Shot and killed by Chris Rosenberg during 12-kilo cocaine deal. Oh, yeah, that's those guys. Rosenberg was shot in the head and arm, but survived. Damn.
Yeah, well, Jamie Padnick, March 1979, shot, killed, and dismembered at the Gemini Lounge after he traveled to New York to say, hey, fuck happened to my father?
Right. He's like, this?
Right.
This right here. You want me to show you? Please do. Chris Rosenberg, 11th of May, 1979, shot and killed by Roy and Anthony Center to avoid a war with the Cuban drug cartels, because we already went over this.
Yep. June 5th, 1980, Charles Mangator and Daniel Scutaro, 30-year-old Mangator, was shot 14 times by Henry Borelli and Roy DeMeo, then slit his throat after he refused to drop an assault charge on the son of a Gambino soldier, Salvatore Mangilino.
Oh, my.
His friend, 25-year-old Daniel Scutaro, was killed after he asked for the whereabouts of Mangator. Both bodies were found in the trunk of a car near Holy Cross Cemetery in Brooklyn.
Dude, Daniel.
All he did was come up and ask.
Still, you should know better.
Jeez.
You already know the answer to that, you sons of bitch. Frank Amato, 20th of September, 1980. Gambino boss Paul Castellano ordered his son-in-law's death after hitting his pregnant daughter, Constance.
Yep.
They shot and killed by Roy DeMeo. Body dismembered by DeMeo and crew.
Jeez.
Look what DeMeo did for you, Castellano.
All right.
And you just murdered him.
December 4th, 1981, Joseph Vigiano was shot and killed and dismembered on the 11th floor office of Show World Times Square in Manhattan by Gus Calivas and Roy DeMeo he owed money to Calibas.
Assholes. Albert and Paul Vigiano. December 21st, a couple weeks later, 1981. The father and brother of Joseph both were lured to a meeting in Canarsie, Brooklyn, and shot to death by Roy after investigating the disappearance of Joseph. Jeez.
That was only a couple of them that I picked out because those were the craziest ones.
Right. Am I crazy?
There's so much more that... Yeah, there was a whole list of these guys. Yeah, Roy DeMeo, look at that. Finally some action in the old Mafia shit going on here.
Hell's Angels episode.
Right. Shit was crazy. Dismembering them and all sorts of shit. Well,
I don't know about the bestiality and child pornography.
oh, well, right. I mean, they are mobsters. Next week, or next month, Mafia episode, we'll take a look at Angelo Ruggiero. He was closely aligned with old John Gotti and Sammy the Bull himself, so we'll get his story next week's, and then we'll round it out with Sammy the Bull the month after that to wrap up the Gambinos. With that, all the links to the description, go check out our YouTube, all that good stuff. Battles of the American Civil War, and we'll be back next week for more Hells Angels and all the nasty, dirty crimes they've committed in Australia.
Some dirty, dirty boys.
Yeah, there's some dirty boys. The dirty boys.
Dirty white boys.
And we'll be back next week for that. We are the Mother Music End of the Wheel.